is the handle. I am Kala Dakuru Batbo, and always remember you could also follow me on social media. The Kalada is my handle. Okay, so right now we want to have a conversation that I do think is dear, and we will be going to the Ogoni region, basically with this conversation. 29 years ago, we saw Ken Saro-Wiwa and 8 others being executed by the Sani Abacha-led military rule at the time. And, of course, the government had claimed that he had committed an offense by being the brain behind the murder of some Ogoni chiefs or leaders. But most Ogoni people will tell you that it was due to his fight for the environment at the time. He was fighting against the environmental degradation as a result of oil exploration. Yesterday, we got the news, being put out by Bayo Nanuga, that Ken Saro-Wiwa is now being honored, and there will be further negotiations as, I don't know what the negotiations will be, but I do believe it may be to giving him a clean bill when you told him and a conviction that was given to him and 8 others. However, the main issue, which is the environment, I wonder if after all these years, almost 3 decades, if it has been resolved. We know IPREP and the cleanup, but have we really achieved any positives? And that's the conversation I would love to have on the show today. And joining me to have the conversation is someone who, you can best describe as an environmental activist. But it's not just that. It is also, an architect. I'm looking at his profile now and I can see that he's an architect. I'm talking about Nnimmo Bassey, who is the director of health of Mother Earth Foundation. It's good to have you on the show. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right, let's start with the basics. What do you make of the government of Nigeria attempting, or would I say honoring, the late Ken Saro-Wiwa and others? What do you make of that? And of course, the promise of further negotiations.
Well, you see, that's an open-ended offer from the government. Honoring Ken Saro-Wiwa and the others, something that ought to have been done a long time ago. But we are pleased to hear this. But ideally, what we really want to hear very clearly is that the government exonerates Ken Saro-Wiwa and the other leaders who were executed in 1995. Just on would certainly not be enough. We need to bring about the closure to the entire crisis situation.
Okay. The government, of course, in that statement by Bayo Nanuga, is looking at negotiating once again, and I want to believe exoneration is part of the negotiations. But
the negotiation with who?
The Ogoni people, the report states.
Okay, that's fine. Because if you want to honor somebody or exonerate somebody, you don't need to negotiate about it.
Okay.
The facts are clear. It's about 3 decades since this thing happened. There's nothing to negotiate.
Okay. All right. But let's go to the main matter now, the environment. That's what it is believed Ken Saro-Wiwa was fighting for. Many years, almost 3 decades once again. Do you think any improvement, any achievement, any positives can be said to have been achieved in Ogoni land?
Well, not just in Ogoni land, but across the Niger Delta. I think the sacrifice that was by Saro-Wiwa and others clearly has had some good results. Unfortunately, they had to pay with their lives. Cleanup is one, and the fact that the pollution in the Niger Delta has become a global discourse. Everybody knows about it, so it can be swept under the carpet. I think that is a big achievement. And now the demand is that the cleanup that's being carried out by IPREP should be extended to other parts of the Niger Delta. We've seen the UNEP report It's because of the Ogoni struggle that report was came about. We've also seen the Bayelsa State Oil and Environment Commission report, which one could say kicked off from the UNEP report by the fact that an assessment was done in Ogoniland. When you add all this up together, I believe that there's been quite a bit of positive things coming out of this struggle.
But how much more do you think should be done? I mean, given the situation we find ourselves in the Niger Delta, IOCs are divesting. It looks like the government is also looking for alternatives to crude. What more can be done, and what do you think should be the time limit?
Well, the Ogoni case gives a very good template on what should be done. Now, the Ogoni people had oil extraction stopped in their territory in 1993, since 1993. And you cannot really clean up an environment when you keep polluting the same environment. And so that's something to learn. But I think beyond the cleanup is good. We are hoping to see full restoration of the environment and then reparation for losses, because people have lost a lot, lost their lives, lost their livelihoods, lost their environment, lost everything. And of course, as I said earlier, we want to see this extended to other parts of the Niger Delta where pollution continues as extraction is continued on a very daily basis. We are seeing new pollutions. We are seeing some really, really horrendous incidents in the oil fields. For example, the Ororo oil well that's been burning since 2020 off the coast of Ondo State in very shallow water. We want to see things done. We don't just sweep things under the carpet or pretend that things are getting better. The divestment is a very sore situation. One expected that the government will have dialogues with the communities. The communities were not consulted when oil companies came to start drilling in the 1950s. And now companies are pretending to be divested, whereas they're just changing their colors. It's a kind of chameleon experiment we are seeing in Nigeria right now. Because companies that are giving money to other companies to buy from them doesn't sound very good. And I'm surprised that government is even listening at all to this, what is going on.
So if I understand you clearly, you're saying for proper remediation to be done in the Niger Delta, not just Ogoni now, we're extending the conversations, we should pause on oil exploration in the region. Or oil production in the region. Did I understand you well?
My recommendation is that not one single new oil well should be opened, because opening new oil wells simply expands the pollution and the problem. It expands social crisis, economic crisis, political crisis, even spiritual crisis. And so we need to be careful about that. I'm saying this because 68 years of massive oil extraction, we have to sit back and what have we gained from it? What has it brought to the region? What has it brought to the nation? If we do the maths, I think we've been the worst off for it.
Let's drag the state government into this conversation, because in some way they benefit, from allocation, from 13% derivation. What can the state government do in terms of securing the environment, in terms of managing the environment? I'm talking remediation, I'm talking reparation.
Well, obviously, state governments have to get more involved in environmental activities, cleaning up the environment. And one thing they could do, the state governors issue certificates of occupancy to companies and individuals before they do things in the territory. So those who are breaking the law, who are carrying out activities that are against the right to life of citizens, should have their CCOs, the certificates of occupancy, revoked. I think that this is one thing that could be done that would bring polluting corporations to account.
If Ken Saro-Wiwa were to come back to life for a minute, or to be here, would he be happy with what IPREP is doing? Because we've had several noise come out from the Ogoni region as to the kind of work, the quality of work being done in terms of cleanup by IPREP. What would you say?
I believe Wiwa was a man with very high ideals. So, of course, he would frown at certain things. He would frown at the speed with which the cleanup is been done. It's been going on for years now. But we do also understand that there's no other region in the world that is as deeply polluted as the Niger Delta. So we don't have anywhere else to compare what is happening here. So it's really, really a laboratory for learning. And so I believe Ken Saro-Wiwa would also see that it's a difficult thing to do, but that something is happening. And one thing I like about that I could say about the cleanup is, the high prep listens to the complaints of the Ogoni people and of others. For example, people have always been saying, why don't you start with the emergency projects that were recommended by the UNEP report? And we've seen some water works being carried out in some communities. It's not all over the place, but at least some have been done now, and some are some are being carried out right now as we speak. And then we've also seen the Center of Excellence being built, which will not only be useful for cleanup of the environment, but going for wider cleanup of the. So things are really happening. The forest mangrove being replanted, which is an indicator that those areas are being cleaned up. And the planting is something that is involving the community. We are the one raising the nurseries, and then the contractor buying from them to plant. And the women, I'm told, have done so much that they've planted. They have enough mangrove beyond what is needed in Ogoni territory. And I think these are all positive things that we should look at. And then, of course, we always say that they must let us know what the milestones are for what they want to do the coming months, coming years, and so that we can hold them to account. So this is what you said you're going to do. Why have you not done it? Or you've done it, and we really see that you've done it.
Are we going to see the, can I describe it this way, unification of, the Ogoni brothers? Because 29 years after, or in the past 29 years, we've seen the politicization, the division that has resulted from the fight for the environment, for cleanup, for remediation, for reparations. Are we going to see, because I don't think, Ken Saro-Wiwa would have been happy, to see all of the fights, all of the politics that the Ogoni people have played in the past 29 years?
Well, I may not be the best person to speak about this, but what I would say is that the Ogoni people are organized enough to take care of the situation, because they know that without unity, they can't really go far. What have been achieved so far has been because the people are mobilized, are united, and they know precisely what they're looking for. And I think they'll get. It's been a long, difficult journey. There's been a lot of trauma in the whole process. So they must be healing. And, we'll get around it. If you heal the environment, you heal the people. With a very disturbed environment, you cannot really have complete healing of people who use that environment.
Okay. Now, the reason why I'm asking is because, I do feel there is a fight in front of us as Niger Deltans, and it's to talk about the move away from crude, right? The world is attempting to use cleaner energies. And I wonder if the Niger Delta is ready, most especially, the people in Ogoni region, are they ready, to switch away from crude?
Well, the pollution and the problems we're having in the Niger Delta, Ogoni and other parts of the Delta, the problem is happening because of lack of access to energy resources. Renewable energy offers a very good way out. Now, look at a place like Bassey. For some months now, there's no electricity broadly across that state because of the failure, the tampering with the national grid in that area. And, if we talk about renewable energy, you would have independent power systems in communities, in the states, and you have to depend on the national grid. I think that's the way to the future. Having energy sovereignty within our communities, within our local governments, within our cities, within neighborhoods, and within the states and regions. And I don't think there's anyone who believes that extracting crude oil, polluting the environment, would help to bring more energy to the people. It hasn't happened. It's not happening. Most of the investment across the continent, across Africa, is for export of the resource of crude oil, of gas, not for utilization on the continent. And so renewable is really the sensible way to go.
You're not even considering usage of gas, just renewable. Do you think we can harness the gas reserves that we have in huge quantity in the Niger Delta?
Well, we have sufficient renewable energy resources that can give us all the electricity we need in Nigeria and probably across the continent.
Interesting.
And so I know people talk about gas as a bridge fuel resource, as something for the transition period. Now, we're not saying that I never said that it should.
All right. Sorry. Can I pause you? We do have a commercial, but when we do come back, we continue we'll continue with gas and renewable.
Nigeria Info. Right back after this.
by police. Rivers police call for vigilance during Ember months as Shaw increased security. Parents raises safety concerns after kidnap of 12-year-old in Rivers State. APC Labour Party candidates lead petitions as Rivers LGA Election Tribunal begins hearing. MD can to begin 7-day warning strike next Monday. Libya deports 7 Nigerians on the foreign scene. US concerned Russia North Korea ties and technology exchanges. Details in the 6 p.m. bulletin. Reach the news team. Send an SMS or WhatsApp to 0808 721 7215.
This is Hard Facts.
All right, 5:32 p.m. here in the Garden City of Port Harcourt, and still with me via the phone to, talk about the Ogoni Remembrance Day, which was on the 10th of November, by the way, is Nnimmo Bassey, is an environmental activist, and he is the Director of Health of Mother Nature. It's good to have you on the show. Welcome back on the show.
Thank you.
All right. So before we went in for that long commercial, we're talking about alternatives to crude if the Niger Delta is ready for it. And you recommended that we take a look at renewable energies. And I asked the question, what about our huge gas reserves? Is this something that we can harness in this region and use it to develop, most especially when it has to do with energy?
Okay. Happy that when you said use gas to develop, you also said with regard to energy. Nigeria flares a lot of gas. We just burn gas and we're poisoning the environment, poisoning our people. If all the gas that is being utilized to that would be a big plus for Nigeria. And for enough gas being flared, the gas being flared enough to power the entire nation. So you can see that level of I don't know what we're looking for. What we're looking at that we cannot utilize the gas as being flared, cannot stop gas flaring and invest in it, knowing that investing in life, we're investing in something productive, we're investing in something that will help our people. So that's what I would say about gas. The flared gas, stop gas flaring and utilize it for something that is productive.
For people like you who are activists for the environment, why is there not so much noise to stop gas flaring? I do understand growing up, I would hear one or two movements at the time saying, oh, stop flaring gas. But nowadays, it looks like everybody has accepted that it's a norm to flare gas. Even the National Assembly is not making a noise about it. The federal government, who is supposed to be fining, the IOCs, are not fining them as well. So what could be the reason? Have we all accepted that gases should be flared?
I don't think anybody accepts it because the communities are complaining continuously. They're having so many complications, in health complications, and they've not stopped complaining. Recently, there was a big uproar in Bayelsa, the Petiama Kingdom, when a giant big gas flare test was carried out there that was so close to the home of the chairman of the Bayelsa State Traditional Council. A lot of concern. There have been a lot of concerns about gas flaring. There's been litigation on gas flaring. Courts have ruled that it's illegal to flare gas. That in fact is against the right of the people to life, against the norm. And of course, in the past, government has been setting deadlines and not fulfilling the deadlines. Right now, the deadline is 2030. And I don't really see why I should believe that government is going to that's going to happen. And the main problem is that the government is working hand in hand with the corporations because we have a joint venture arrangement. And so when government says stop gas flaring, corporations will say, well, let's contribute resources to make this happen according to our shareholding percentages. And it does look like government has always been drawing back from doing that. So we have policies. We don't put our money where our mouth is. And so the citizens are just left with the wrong end of the stick. And this is a tragedy of energy resource management in Nigeria.
All right. So let's go back to what the federal government did as regards the Ken Saro-Wiwa and other situation. I used the wrong word. It's not negotiation. Actually, what the government did was promise. Promise to what's the word now? Just give me a minute so I can read it as seen on Bayo Nanaga's page. It said, it stands in solidarity with the National Youth Council of Ogoni people and all Ogoni citizens to honor those who made the ultimate sacrifice in defense of the Ogoni nation's interest. He said, I think he also said, we honor their memory by recognizing the sacrifices made and pledging to strive for a future characterized by peace, justice, and sustainable development for all communities, particularly those in the Niger Delta. It says that the administration will actively address historical grievances and work towards building a united and prosperous nation for future generations. So the question I want to ask is, what should the people be asking now that the government is willing, to bring about some succor, or should I say, like you described it, close this matter? How and what should Ogoni people be asking for?
Well, first of all, the statement made by Mr. Bayo Nanuga is good. It's a good statement. The sentiments expressed there are what we should expect from government. But again, it's a promise, and we've heard other governments, like the last administration, also made some promise to do something about this. And so people are waiting to see it happen. And, the working to bring about justice and sustainable development, these are all things that are globally acceptable. But I think the Ogoni people have some clear demands, which they made in the Ogoni Bill of Rights, which was submitted to the government in 1990. That Bill of Rights has not been acknowledged by government, neither has it been implemented. Only what we see, the cleanup is just a part of the complaints of the Ogoni people. And I think the government should look at it. It's a written document, which is very fundamental to many other nations within ethnic nations were inspired by that to bring up their own demands. And I think it would be a good thing for government to look at that. That's a whole charter that is right there in the open.
Can you give us, one or two, for people who have not come across that document, can you give us one or two items on that document?
Well, the Ogoni people, apart from complaining about environmental pollution, also complain about economic marginalization. They demanded to be recognized, they asked for, the first item in that Bill of Rights, that the Ogoni people, before the advent of colonialism, were not conquered or colonized by any other ethnic group. So they want to have a fair, they want to be fully integrated to the system. And one of the other things they mentioned was, of course, the environmental pollution. That neglectful, I'm reading from the bill now, that neglectful environmental pollution laws and substandard inspection techniques of the federal authorities have led to the complete degradation of the Ogoni environment, turning our homeland into an ecological disaster. This was in 1990. And they said that Ogoni people lack education, health, and other social facilities. That it is intolerable that one of the richest areas of Nigeria should wallow in abject poverty and destitution. And then they said the right to protect the Ogoni environment and ecology from further declaration. Those are some of the things that some of the items in that Bill of Rights. And it's a whole, as I said, it's a document that anybody could Google and find it online. And the government must have it in its archives. They should bring it out of the archives and do something about the demands of the people.
All right, thank you very much for your time. My time is up. I do have to go, but I really do appreciate the time and your two sessions as well.
Thank you very much.
All right, then. Next is 29 years. My things changed. Reverberated. And, places like Yausa, some other communities in Rivers are now beginning to enjoy, some attention as to environmental situations in those places. But then again, really, has anything changed? Have we seen the attitude change? Have we seen, some of the questions asked us way back as 1990, 1991, 1993, and even 1995, have we seen answers to some of those questions? I would love to hear from you, but I really do have to take a break because there is a commercial coming up shortly. After the commercial, it will be time for the major news, and after the major news, you and I will talk some more, so please do stay tuned.
A clean surrounding is a collective effort.
Diseases could be avoided
with good hygiene practice.